Ex-fiancé cheated after 3 years, about 6 months before our wedding was planned for. I'll begin by admitting that I behaved foolishly and turned a blind eye, but sometimes you ignore the red signs because you don't want to believe it. About 7 months into our relationship, my fiancé and I moved in together. Shortly after, I discovered he was spending a lot of time chatting to his most recent long-term ex-girlfriend, from whom I subsequently learned they split up because he cheated on her. Paragraphs atop paragraphs. I spoke to him about it, and he agreed that it wasn't very suitable, and that he would stop texting her since he didn't have any need to speak to her that frequently. He had a new female coworker at his construction job about a month later. Round 2. We spoke all day and all night. When I got home from work, he was playing games and texting/snapping with her. I wouldn't leave that location for supper. Climb into bed and continued to chat to her all night. I challenged him about it, stating it was strange that she was contacting him so often. He replied that if it made me uncomfortable, he wouldn't speak to her outside of work if he didn't have to since he had just recently met her, and they weren't really friends. Problem solved, I reasoned. Over the following 3 years, he would conceal all of his talks from me. I would catch him about every 3 months or so, confront him about it, and he would say he was sorry, regretful, that he had insulted me and so on. And I assumed we'd get through it. We didn't though. It simply kept going on. Lies, caught, crying, and repeat. We went to a Halloween party in October of 2020 and had a good time. When he opened his phone, he saw 3 alerts from her. He informed me he blocked her after the previous time I caught him lying to me. I offered him the option to confess on the way home, but he didn't. So when he arrived home, I confronted him. This got out of hand. He yelled at me, telling me I was poisonous and ex-fiancé cheated after 3 years, about 6 months before our wedding was planned for. I'll begin by admitting that I behaved foolishly and turned a blind eye, but sometimes you ignore the red signs because you don't want to believe it. About 7 months into our relationship, my fiancé and I moved in together. Shortly after, I discovered he was spending a lot of time chatting to his most recent long-term ex-girlfriend, from whom I subsequently learned they split up because he cheated on her. Paragraphs atop paragraphs. I spoke to him about it, and he agreed that it wasn't very suitable, and that he would stop texting her since he didn't have any need to speak to her that frequently. He had a new female coworker at his construction job about a month later. Round 2. We spoke all day and all night. When I got home from work, he was playing games and texting/snapping with her. I wouldn't leave that location for supper. Climb into bed and continued to chat to her all night. I challenged him about manipulative and that he couldn't have any friends because of me. He slammed his phone against the wall so hard that it shattered. That I was wrong for his lying to me because I forced him to. He informed me during that chat that she was going across the nation in 2 weeks and that he was simply talking to her until she went. I told him anything he wanted to hear, but when she departs, I don't want to hear her name again. Let's go back to the Friday she departed. He arrived home in a strange mood. When I inquired whether she had left, he claimed she had, and he had removed her from everything. I caught him messaging her less than 10 minutes later. I asked him why he continued lying to me, and he answered he had no idea. He went away for work the next week and contacted me to say he wasn't sure he could do it anymore. I was in my first week at my new work, so I was going through training as well as dealing with that. On that Friday, he came home and informed me he was going to his brother's to think. He returned on Saturday and told me he was going to live with his mother for a bit, but that he was thinking about moving in with the girl who had just come to Arizona. That's when he finally admitted to lying and cheating on me. I'll never know how long it will last. He said he just kissed her on the day she departed, but I don't believe him for a second. He alternated between wanting to remain and work things out and telling me I couldn't do it anymore. On Sunday he awoke, packed everything he had in the home as I had a tantrum, and relocated to his mother's place. He relocated to Arizona 3 days later. He remained for 4 months before returning to live with his brother approximately an hour away. I'd almost moved on at this time. He maintained constant communication, stating he loved me and so on, but he still remained in Arizona for 4 months. His departure was the wake-up call I needed. Hello. Because of you, I've been unhappy for 3 years. A fresh pair of eyes and a little or a lot of treatment may put you on the right track. Since then, I've made a lot of new friends, reconnected with old ones, reclaimed my social life. I wasn't permitted to see anybody. Received 2 increases, and I recently found out that my employer has established a new job for me, and I'll be receiving a promotion and another raise. I refinanced my home, Therefore, his name is no longer on it. I'm becoming closer to my family. I'm now 1000% less tolerant of that type of nonsense, and I've learned a lot. Bonus: the cats no longer recognize him, and I'm better for it. He, on the other side, is living with his brother, struggling to get me back, making the worst choice of his life. He only wants me and so on. I try to be nice and patient, but I'm done. Every day, he texts me to apologize for something new, to express how miserable he is, and to express how much he wishes he could return home. He lied to me for so long, wrecked all we had together, twisted and gaslit me, that I don't even feel sorry for myself. His whole family is furious with him. You can't have your cake and eat it as well. I left out so much important stuff, but it's already a big narrative since it spans 4 years. So please accept my apologies for the length. Just a little yell into the internet ether. He's been barred since then. I used the incorrect phrasing. It was necessary to complete the riffy and some additional tasks, which have already been completed. Story 2. My 41 male, wife 41 female, cheated on me with my coworker/good friend. 2.5 years later, still having issues. Background: I was adopted and was molested as a youngster by my adoptive father, which caused me to have a few difficulties. Laughter is a defensive strategy. Massive barriers were put up to keep others away, and I had untreated sadness for a long time. Never felt loved, constantly sought love/affection from women, and even while in partnerships, I would have flings for. Later, therapy found that this behavior was prevalent among mistreated children. My wife and I met in 2005 and married in November of 2009. I was unable to have a close bond with her due to my depression. There were happy and difficult moments. I had a kid in January of 2011. I had difficulties relating to my baby since my wife was fully focused on her. We both developed anger against each other, mine for a lack of attention, hers for a lack of family time. So it simply increased over time. Then there's the meat and potatoes. My small child and I fought a lot. She's quite strong-willed and combative, so confrontation was inevitable. In 2017, this was the tipping moment for my wife. I had a large disagreement with my baby girl one day before work, and my wife was done with me. I left enraged, was called to duty, so I remained out, got drunk, was arrested, and spent the night in prison. It was a nightmare. From then, it was all downhill. I began sleeping in the other room, was neglected, and received no attention, hugs, or anything else. This carried on for many months. I was completely unaware of anything. FFW 27/2017. I learned, through a sync laptop, that my brother was trying to bed my wife from 3.5 hours away. She declined the offers. I was best man at this jerk's second wedding. I gave him a place to live, got him a job, and we were close, but I discovered communications between my wife and her BFF that hinted at a separate connection. I never thought anything occurred other than maybe kissing this gentleman. Whomever he was, she was adamantly opposed to anything involving cheating/affairs, but I was positive nothing did. Nothing is mentioned in the scriptures. 8/2017, an effort for us to be alone and spend time together to recover while on a brief vacation without our daughter resulted in the revelation of an affair. They had multiple meetings, one of which was held in the backyard after a party. When I was sleeping on the sofa, when I found out who it was with, I almost passed out. A colleague with whom I had an excellent connection, with whom I worked beside and sometimes in the same office. My whole life had essentially disintegrated. I'm the one who brought them together. For the next 3 months, I drank a lot, sobbed Al. I avoided the home till she was gone and I could be alone with my little child. I became suicidal, had no strategy, and just wanted to die. What saved my life was telling my psychiatrist about it one day when I was there for my quarterly ADHD refill. I'll never forget her face as she glanced at me. That day I began taking an antidepressant, and my life has never been the same since. My concern is it natural to still be angry with him and her? It was almost 2.5 years ago. To be honest, if I were to run across any of the men suddenly, I'd stomp them like a narc at a motorcycle rally. It doesn't disturb me as much as it used to. I'm having a terrific day. But how far is too far? Update: to clarify and answer. To some of you, I acknowledge that what I did was bad for everyone, and that I deserve everything that has occurred to me. Why am I still upset is a question I haven't been able to answer for myself. Or why am I unwilling to let this nonsense go? Some days are better than others, and I'm not having any problems. However, I've been experiencing more terrible days than good recently. It's a trend that has repeated itself throughout the past 2.5 years. Is there any chance I'll ever be able to let it go?